Thank you for taking the time to assess infiltration basin BMPs for opportunities to enhance the stream and lake saving benefits. My name is Richard Klein. I'm helping the Elkhorn Stream and Lake Restoration Alliance. In this presentation, we'll explain how to complete this online infiltration basin assessment form. At first glance, an infiltration basin can resemble other pond types. Here you see three somewhat similar ponds. Wet retention ponds hold a permanent pool of water. Dry extended detention ponds occasionally hold runoff for 12 to 24 hours following a major storm. And the dry pond rarely retains runoff. An infiltration basin can store runoff for up to 48 hours while it seeps or infiltrates into the soils on the basin floor. Unlike other pond types, the first opening in a well-functioning infiltration basin spillway will be at least a foot or more above the basin floor, as shown in the photo on the left. If the opening is at or close to the floor, as seen on the right, then it may be an infiltration basin in need of cleaning or some other pond type. To be effective in saving streams, lakes, and other waters, infiltration basins must be designed to treat the first inch of runoff from rooftops, streets, parking lots, and other impervious surfaces. About 90% of all runoff from impervious surfaces is accounted for in storms that generate an inch or more of runoff. That is, an inch or less of runoff. This first inch of runoff is stored below the first point in the spillway where there's an opening while it soaks into or infiltrates into the basin floor. Of the four stormwater pond types, infiltration basins are the most effective at removing nutrients, toxics, and other pollutants washed from impervious surfaces with each storm. In addition to keeping pollution out of our streams and lakes, basins and other infiltration BMPs allow the filtered, much cleaner runoff to soak into underlying soils. After traveling through the earth to enter nearby channels, this infiltrated runoff helps maintain dry weather inflow to streams and lakes. By treating the first inch of runoff with infiltration, most stormwater impacts can be prevented provided the basin is well maintained. To protect streams, lakes, and other waters, a typical infiltration basin must have the components shown in this profile view. As previously stated, the first opening in the spillway must be at least a foot above the basin floor and will frequently be higher. The portion of the basin below this first spillway opening stores runoff until it can soak, infiltrate, into the soils on the infiltration basin floor. This brings us to the first question you'll find in the online assessment form. Is there at least a foot between the floor of the infiltration basin and the first point where runoff could enter the spillway? If your answer is no, then the BMP may require cleaning to restore original runoff storage volume. If in doubt, then consider using the rain gauge and float method described in question 11 later in this presentation. With this very simple method, you can determine if the BMP has sufficient storage volume to treat the first inch of runoff. The spillway opening in this infiltration basin is on the floor, which prevents ponding to store runoff until it can be treated by soaking, infiltrating into the underlying soils. The runoff stored temporarily in infiltration basins must soak completely down through the floor within 48 hours. If runoff remains longer than 48 hours, then the soils on the floor of the infiltration basin may be clogged. The presence of cattails or other wetland vegetation can indicate that soils on the infiltration basin floor have clogged. Wetland vegetation only thrives if the upper soil layer is saturated with water for an extended period. Saturated soils do not allow runoff to seep downward through the soil, which reduces pollutant removal and groundwater recharge. Is there exposed soil in the area draining to a basin? If yes, then erosion could result in sediment deposition that robs a basin of storage capacity and may clog the soil surface, preventing infiltration. Exposed soil must be mulched and grass seeded as quickly as possible with runoff diverted away from the basin until a good grass cover is established. Forebays are frequently located at the point where runoff enters an infiltration basin. Forebays pretreat runoff to prevent sediment and other material from robbing a basin of storage capacity or causing basin soils to clog. If you can see that sediment or other material is moving from a forebay into a basin, then the forebay probably requires cleaning. Look at the top of the earth embankment forming the basin dam. Are there any low spots other than at an emergency spillway? If yes, then the low spot could indicate settlement, posing a potential threat of overtopping and dam failure. Animal burrows or trees on the earth embankment could also lead to dam failure. Cattails and other wetland plants on the downslope embankment face may indicate seepage through the embankment, another possible dam failure issue. If you suspect an infiltration basin is not treating the first inch of runoff, then use the rain gauge and float method described here. Place a rain gauge next to the basin when a half inch or more of rain is predicted in the next 24 hours. Tie a string to a floating object like a piece of wood. Tie the other end of the string to a nearby fixed object like a tree or a tent peg. Place the float on the spillway opening where runoff could first exit. If after 24 hours there's less than an inch of rain in the gauge and the float has washed down into the spillway, then the basin is not treating the first inch of runoff. Use the space provided in question 11 to note anything else you observe that might affect the stream and lake saving benefits of an infiltration basin. If you would like to learn more about the Elkhorn Stream and Lake Restoration Alliance, then view a 7-minute presentation at ceds.org/Elkhorn Restoration. Thanks once again for helping to maximize the stream and lake saving benefits of infiltration basins. If you have any questions, contact me, Richard Klein, at 410-654-3021 or help@ceds.org.